For this exercise, you're going to download the drawing that I've supplied in the homework assignment. So it'll open up in the Layout tab, and this is what you're going to end up working with. Everything in the area of red, everything in red is an area of interest that you need to work on. So go to the Model tab. In the areas of red up here along the sides of the building is where you're going to be constructing the dynamic block for the window. In the area here, you will be constructing the layout of the bath, and you'll also be dimensioning it. So you'll be required to create the layout of the bath, and it looks like this. So you'll have the layout of the bath is going to end up looking like this and down here in the viewport. So you'll need to go to the Design Center and bring in the toilet, a sink, and a bathtub. You'll also have to create the design. Right now, the area in this detail for the bath is blank, so you have to draw this wall, this wall, this wall, okay? And you'll dimension it out. Now, I show you how to do the windows block in another video, so I'm going to show you how to go to Design Center and bring in a block and modify the bathtub. So I'm going to go to Design Center, and it's easiest to do DC for Design Center. All right, now here's the thing. Each program comes up with a different location of where your Design Center parameters are set. Mine's underneath Sample, and here's the Design Center. Now, in the Design Center, there's already some dynamic blocks you could be using. Here's the other thing is I'm actually using the Civil 3D platform, so it might look a little different. If you have problems finding your Design Center, send me a message. I'm going to be looking at the House Designer underneath the Design Center, and I'm going to be looking at the blocks. So what you can do is you can go ahead and drag the bathtub over. And it's going to be tiny because it's the wrong scale, so we'll have to scale them up. We'll bring in the sink, and we'll bring in the toilet at the top. Those are our three blocks that we need to bring in. Now notice that they're awful tiny. So if I click on one of the blocks, notice that its scale is 1. So I'm going to type in 12 because typically architectural drawings are at a 1 inch equals 12 foot. So I'm going to highlight these, and I'm just going to type in 12 to get those set. Now you can go ahead and move this over. I'm not going to draw the layout of the bath area. I'm not going to draw this right now. That'll be your job. And I'm going to bring over the toilet. Now here's the other thing is make sure they're on their proper layer when you bring them in. So you can do furniture if you wish. Now I'll show you how to do the dynamic block for the tub. So I'm going to go ahead and set it on the furniture layer. To activate a block or get to block editor, there's a couple ways to do it. You can double click on it, you can pick the object, right click, and go block editor, and it automatically starts. Now the way this works is there are parameters and actions, and I'm going to start with a parameter. You always start with a parameter. So I'm going to use the linear parameter because I want to stretch it. And I'm going to pick from endpoint to endpoint, and just a little bit up. Notice that there are 2 arrowheads. That means I can stretch this object in both directions, but typically I only want to stretch it in one. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to go ahead and collapse these, and I'm going to change that to only 1 grip, and it allows me to grip this end. All right. Now, remember I picked from endpoint to endpoint. So I'm going to do that one more time so you can see. Linear, and I'm going to pick, just to do it different, I'm going to pick endpoint to endpoint. And now if I come over here and I highlight it and I say that I only want 1, notice that the direction that it picks. So you do have to be specific on which start point you want to do. I actually want to pull this direction. So I'm going to go linear from endpoint to endpoint and then pick a point up here. And I'm going to change that. I'm just going to pull this out so you can see it. It says number of grips, and I'm going to change that just to 1. And now I've got to put an action onto this. So here's the thing, is I actually want to go pull pulling it from this point to this point. If I wanted to only pull it from the center, then I could have started in the center and only pulled it halfway. But I'm going to just do this the full direction. My action is going to be a stretch command, and it says select the parameter. So I pick the parameter, and it says specify the parameter point to associate the action with. I'm going to start it at this end. And now it says specify the corner to stretch the frame. I want to stretch it from this direction, okay? And I'm going to pick all of these objects. Notice it picks the complete thing, so I'm going to pick these objects here. And notice that I'm not picking this object here. I'm going to hit enter. I like to test my block to make sure it works. Sometimes I do this wrong, sometimes I do it right. Mine always, I have to zoom out to get it, and now I've got a stretch command. So I can pull this out, all right? So I'm going to close the test block. Now I'm going to do a second stretch. Now I'm going to pull it down this direction. So I'm going to go back to my parameters. I'm going to go linear, endpoint to endpoint, and pull this. And now again, I only want one grip. So I'll just collapse. Let me move this out of the way. Collapse these. Collapse these. Oh. There. Sorry, I didn't highlight the right thing. I only want one. And now when I grip it or select it, I'm going to do an action. Again, stretch. Sorry, I should have picked it secondly. Pick it. My point that I want to do the action at is at the end point. And I'm going to create a stretch from here down. And then I'm going to select the objects. Make sure you select everything. Okay. Now, when I stretch this down, it's going to make this look really funny because this here is one continuous arc. Okay. But I'm just going to leave it as is. If I wanted it to split and only have half the arc pull, then I should have had a tangent portion in here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and I'm going to test my block. Zoom out a little. All I have to do is scroll out, grab it, and now I'm going to pull this direction, and I'm going to pull that direction. All right. I'm going to close that block. Now the last thing that I want to do is I want to put a move point on this one, where the center of the drain is. So I'm going to put a point on that one, and I'm going to specify that as my point, and there's my position point. I'm going to do an action, and I'm going to do the move action. There's the parameter, and then it says select the objects, and there's my objects. Usually you'll see on each one of these it has a parameter. You can do multiple changes on each one. It could have, you know, multiple parameters and actions. Now I'm going to go ahead and close the block. Oops, cancel. I'm going to go ahead and save my block editor. And I'm going to go ahead and test. Like I said, I always like to test. I'm going to zoom out to find my block. And now I can just move this wherever I want. I'm going to close the block editor. I'm going to save it one more time just for fun. Before I do that, I want to talk to you a little bit more about different things. There's also parameter sets. We're not going to get into that in this class, but parameters also can have constraints. Maybe you want it tangential. You'll learn a little bit more about these when you do 3D CAD with SolidWorks. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this. And now I have my bathtub. All right. Notice that it didn't change anything, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the insert. The synchronize, it updates the block references with the new changes, new and changed attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and synchronize this. When I click on it, oops, escape. Sorry, that only updates. It should have. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to delete that block. I'm just going to reinsert that tub. So the insertion, if you can either do I for insert, that's usually normally what I do, and I pull this down and I find the bathtub, and I'm going to insert it on screen and pick a point. Now I need to change its scale. When you use the block definition and you synchronize, usually that's for your attributes and not just updating. There was, and I don't know where it's at, that you can update block attributes, not specifically as I'm showing. So we have a scale that we need to adjust. Now when I do this, when you change a scale, it loses its dynamic of attributes or abilities. So if you insert, and you can also use the insert over here and find it this way. When you bring it in this way, you don't have an option to insert and change the scale. So when you do change the scale like this, like I said, you lose that dynamic. But if you insert the way that I showed you and you change that scale here, then it won't, okay? So either you automatically have to go ahead and update them, and I need to have it on the right layer. But what you should do is insert with the I command, if you're following this video, and change the scale so you insert and make sure that that says a uniform of 12, because you can see the factor here is incorrect. All right, so what I asked you to do is to move the object, place it here wherever your tub is, and then you're going to, I'm going to move that over. Let's pretend that it needed to go this direction and it needed to go that direction. And we need to move the center. What you're going to do is make sure that it fits in the area that I have asked you to place it in, and I'll show you that. So your bathtub is supposed to be inside that 2 feet 9 inches by 7 feet, 7 feet 6 inches. I actually created a rectangular tub, but you can use the one from the Design Center and just follow along with this video to create it. But it's going to fit inside this block area. So just make sure that whatever, once you get it drawn out, it fits where it needs to be. You can also rotate this if you wanted to do it like that and able to use your grips this way. It's up to you. All right, so that's it for this video.